I don't
I
know.
call it a support group.
Yeah. My original intention was like aftercare for people so that they didn't just get shunted back out into the sleep world after they saw no self. But
Yeah. Okay.
it's just more of the same, more of this. That's all. But we're not
Okay.
specifically talking about guiding.
And fair warning, that group usually goes for 3 hours. And I
Yeah.
bow out. I've got about an hour worth of video in me. I don't do a whole lot of video.
And you don't have to stay for the duration, and you can come late and go early, and it's all fine. Yeah, there's no worries.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll be back in a minute then. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm. Morning, Alan,
Hello, everybody.
Paul and Paul.
Hey, is this new guiding group where we learn to guide using that new model, the fetters?
No.
Oh boy. I know a couple of people for whom those are fighting words.
I didn't
I saw
recognize
the
it as a
fight.
shit stirrer, Paul.
I've been trying to avoid a fight.
Yeah.
I'm ignoring one of them.
Yeah, I took some great advice from somebody who said, just stay out of it. It'll only end up as a fight. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Doing
Yeah.
that.
Yep. So I love the feathers. I think they're fine, but I'm still on 4-5, I have to confess. But
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
I've broken through a piece of 4-5, but my husband still doesn't do anything right. Ask him.
Yeah.
4-5 seems like so much closer just to the field of psychology, and then it seems more like the fetters non-duality when you get up 6 through 10. But 4 and 5
Yeah.
is just like, what do I like and what do I don't like? And that's like just me, non-duality or not. So it's interesting.
Well, it's about the attachment to it, Paul. I mean, I don't expect to love it when my husband hangs a plate halfway off of the table and thinks he's set it down properly. I'm not going to like that. The plates break. But
Yeah.
it's my teacher I saw before I came to LU, and that particular person, after seeing, he talked about it as leaning a certain way. Like I might lean towards preferring coffee ice cream, but if you hand me chocolate, I'll eat it, right? It's not as harsh and black and white. So 4-5 to me is about black white thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder whether you can ever get completely free of desire and aversion, but maybe not. It's not a big thing.
Ask Kevin Shinelak or ask Christiane Michaelberger and see what they say. They've gone through that stuff. Ask Pernilla. They might
say
think that you
yes.
can. They say yes?
They say yes.
I believe them. I like those people. I believe, and I've never known them to lie to me. So, yeah.
Oh, I don't think anybody would lie about it. I think people might fool themselves.
That could be.
It's hard to get out of the human condition.
Mm.
But I agree, it could be minimized a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we get there's a fine line between desiring and, say, a body preference. That got a big response, didn't it?
I agree.
Well, I think mentally there might be a fine line, but in the body there's not. It's cut and dried.
Hmm.
Now, the difference between, what was it he said? Paul, what did you say? Fooling themselves about.
Whether
I
they
think people can. I think people can get caught up in the intellectual part of it and still have some subtle beliefs that they're not free of everything. But when you look at the behavior, you could still see some subtle yearning on their behalf. And it's not a problem. It's not something I consider a problem by any means. It's just,
Yeah.
I question the whole idea of non-duality. I think there's lighter and lighter stages of duality. It's kind of like beer. You have beer, light beer, ultralight beer. And what you do is kind of go up the scale of duality. And at some point, it's so subtle as to be not noticeable, but still you're in the human condition. I just question whether that can ever be truly transcended. I mean, you can be free of suffering, but are you ever free completely? Otherwise, why would the Buddha be talking to people on his deathbed? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
There's
I
still
see it as a
something
difference
there.
between, yeah. One of the ways I help myself to distinguish, and clients too, when it comes up, is the difference between the absolute and the relative.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
relative reality, where we're all living, I've got fear, I've got desire, I've got all this stuff, but in the absolute, I look at it and go, well, it doesn't make any sense. And the, I think I'd almost equate absolute with non-dual,
yeah,
but I don't
yeah.
use non-dual. I'm not really a student of
Almost,
non-dual.
almost. I mean, even if you look at religions in the afterlife, I mean, you graduate into a glorious afterlife of duality. It's like, wait, uh,
Why?
wait. It was supposed to be true non-duality, or what are we doing up in heaven singing Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna? I mean,
Eh,
and I realize the
you're
Buddhists have a much
wrong.
different view of it, but it's just,
Mm,
it's a subtle intellectual difference that it doesn't mean anything really. And as a
mm,
practical matter, guiding it doesn't matter. I've just always thought
yeah.
that Buddha, rather than being the greatest non-dual teacher ever, was the greatest duality teacher ever.
Mm,
Because when you are so fully understanding of duality, you can't help but kind of fall into the non-dual mode. But
yeah.
I don't know a lot about Buddhism, so I'm probably talking out of my ass here.
Yeah, any idea about where we are, about progress made, about how liberated we are or how awake we are is just total craziness, absolute craziness. It's just not something that can be measured. It's absolutely so. So what you said, Stacey, that was a big one for me, and that is when I said earlier that with guiding, I want to help people discover what's actual and what's conceptual. A big part of that is learning the difference between what the absolute and what's relative. And the absolute requires zero attention. It's simply not understandable. I won't even
Yeah.
to try and
Yep.
understand. Yeah. What I need to understand is the relative. That is what goes on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. How do you
Yep.
ease suffering?
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome everybody. So if you were to
Oh, there's Vince. I didn't see Vince.
okay. All I was going to say was a little motivational thing that if you go on the forum, you've got one guide you're working with, but you come here and I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guides here floating around the place or something like that. So make use of them. Ask questions. What's going on for you? Or I'll pick on you if you like. Who's here that's not awake? Not a hand goes up. You're all awake, eh? Good. All right. Don, why are you not awake?
I'm just confused. I was talking to you yesterday, Vince. I felt really cheerful after that. And then I went to see a horse. I did horse therapy, and the horse was so bloody good at being a horse, and I felt really miserably bad at being a human. And I got so miserable. I got so overwhelmed with my thoughts after that. I got so depressed. The whole day long, I've been in my thoughts all day, remembering that you said notice my thoughts, and I've been noticing them, and I've been in a story the whole bloody day, thinking, oh my God, yesterday I felt okay, and now I'm in a story and I can't get out of it, even though I'm aware that I'm in it.
Okay.
And
Right. So that's a big one. It's a huge one. Okay. The idea that you shouldn't be in a story is another story. Okay. You don't try to get out of them. You don't try to stop them because you can't. Who's got control over what thoughts come up? Okay. So what you do is you simply notice. You notice what's going on. If you're in a story, you notice that you're in a story. Don't do anything else. Don't even expect a change as a result of noticing, but it will happen. The change will happen. But if you chase the change, it probably won't happen. Notice. That's all. Just notice. That's what I would say. Others might say something different. Stacey will give you an exercise.
an exercise. Yeah, I was just
You're
like,
right.
I'll tell you a bit
You're
more.
right. I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, thanks. The horse thing, I've gone to this horse therapy thing twice, and both occasions, the thing about my career came up, and I've been trying to get a career that I like for like 25 years. It has never worked out. And I was saying, let's not talk about my career again. I'm sick of trying to look at that. It's never going to work out. And it just came back again. It's funny. The woman asked me, right? Let's tell you quickly. The woman asked me, and I've been doing all these exercises with the horse. And she said, tell me about your job as it is now. I'm like, well, it's frustrating, but I can do it in like 3 or 4 hours a day. It's no big deal. And I can meditate for the rest of the day. The horse bit me on the leg when I said the word meditate. And she's like, that means something. He's pissed off with something there about something about the meditation, something about your job. What does he mean by that? I'm like, I don't know. But the horse knew there was something wrong with what I said about my job and my meditation. I don't know,
Okay.
still don't know what it is.
Now, how do you think the horse knew?
Just from how I was, I suppose, however
Absolutely.
I was feeling.
Absolutely. Your body language, and you probably gave off a different smell, right? Did you recognize that there was a contraction in the body with that question?
I guess there is anything around my job, because I really don't like it. I just don't know how to get out of it and find the one I like. So I'm always contracted when people talk about my career to me.
Okay, yeah, but let's stop the story part. The contraction. I'm always contracted, right? You feel when that question was asked, what I imagined was that your body went into a contraction of some kind. It doesn't matter how big it was, and that is what the horse was responding to. Your body does not lie. Your mind will, your head will lie, but your body never lies.
Okay.
John, what job do you want? Can you briefly say?
Oh, I don't even know. That's the thing. I don't even know. I mean, I work for the government. I'm kind of middle, I'm not fairly junior, and the job I want is a much more senior job than the one I have, and I'm not good at getting promoted. So I can do much more interesting work, but I just don't do well at interviews. So it's a constant frustration that but I don't even know. Somebody was talking about management consultancy to me recently, and it sounded really exciting, and I have skills that way, but I don't know how to make it into a career. So I really haven't ever had proper clarity or confidence as to what I want, even after all these years.
Okay, thank you.
It's weird.
That's what I was wondering about. We've got Flavius over here with his hand up whenever we get to a point where we can ask.
Anyway, so yeah.
Hey, all.
Hi.
Since we talked last time, Vince, here in a meeting, you advised me that I should drop all the labels and pay more attention to sensations in the body. I was telling you how I feel this burning sensation in my heart and in my heart area, in my emotional area, and through my spine, heart tingling, fizzy sensation. And I stay with that a lot, quite a lot. I've tried to drop labels not only regarding the sensations, but everything I see, hear, everything. I expanded let's call it for the sake of our discussion, practice of dropping labels. What happened, it's that those sensations grew a lot. Like I have, if I do this half a day, for example, and don't get caught in a train of thought, it feels like the entire body is burning at some point, and the whole spine and throat and even head. And it feels, this would sound weird, but I don't have any other means to say this. It feels sweet inside the body. It has kind of a sweet warmth. I don't know why I'm combining it with taste, but it's really like I can taste the heat. It's weird. It's like a mixture of senses. It becomes a mixture of senses.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. That's perfect. Yeah. So
I don't know what that leads.
yeah, well, that's where we go now. I would what came up for me when you were talking was I wondered whether or not you have seen how the use of labels was keeping you away from what's going on in the body. It's an escape.
It was actually not only an escape, it was an addiction.
Yes.
And it was a confusion. I was confusing. A confusion was in place about when you see something like a sensation, it was an assumption that to be integrated, it must immediately be labeled to be understood and integrated. Actually, it proved to be a hindrance, and thank you for your advice.
You're welcome. Thank you. So let's just be very clear and let's label the labels as thinking.
Yeah.
That's accurate for you? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
100%.
what are you hearing, Don, that relates to you?
I don't know. I'm confused now, I'm afraid.
Well, stop there. So tell me, what's this confusion? Where are you feeling it? How do you know it's confusion? So you've got this label of confusion about something. What is that something?
Ooh, I don't know. It feels just like a swimming feeling in my head. What it's about, I don't know exactly.
Okay, tell me that swimming feeling, is it a pleasant or unpleasant?
It's unpleasant.
Okay. So it's a tightening rather than a loosening.
I think so. I feel like I'm not clear. I'm not here. Don't feel I can be present or be clear or be
Yep.
like that.
That's part of the mechanism of escape, isn't it? To be not clear. And that's why you labeled it confusion, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Feels like I'm being pulled away from even concentration on what's happening here or what you're saying to me.
Hmm. So, Flavius, something happened for you with the recognition of what was going on. With something changed. Would you say that you had a shift with the recognition?
No,
No?
no. I knew this before. It's kind of like I've seen that. First of all, I was labeling too much and confusing the insight with the labeling at some point. And second of all, you said something about the fear. Fear last time. It wasn't like a fear barrier, but it was more like procrastination, a postponing of getting to know my own sensations fully. And I'm just, and by the way, the sensations are so powerful now in the body, that tingling and heat. Even now, I'm burning, all my body is burning like in a present state. It absorbs my entire attention like a void.
Yeah.
And every time I do something around the house or whatever, after a minute or two of not paying attention to the body, with the slightest sensation of silence, the attention gets drawn again powerfully into the body and gets this burning sensation even more. I don't know what is, I don't know where it leads, I don't know what will happen.
Yeah.
But I'll just go along.
Yep. I could make up a story about it, and it would go something like this: that burning sensation is still part of you saying, keep away from this. It's still
Okay.
it's still a protective thing. It's wanting you to avoid it. But by doing what you're doing, which is actually looking at it, you're facing it square on, and it will give up. It'll change to the point where you will start to see what's behind it, and there'll be other sensations and other stories behind it. Okay, so that
Okay.
the labels are just one kind of story. There'll be other stories there as well, but you'll see that as you don't run away from, don't succumb to the body sensation saying, do this or think this, anything to escape it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually doing this. I'm dropping every thought. I'm dropping even there has been here a little change, not a shift, a little change. Thoughts are not gathering so much. Some whispers came this week. Thoughts began to be more shy, can I say? And at one point, I even dropped the thought of the sensation of the movement in the body, and it became a lot more clearer and a lot more heated up. I can see how thoughts or thinking it tries to sneak in, even with let's say secondary sensations, except for that burning. My ego has a question now. Where does this lead to?
If ego asks a question, the next question is going to be, well, how far along that am I, and so on and so on, and it's an endless thing. No, yeah, you just laugh at a question like that and don't even bother to answer it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know where it's going to lead to for you. It could lead anywhere for you. Yeah.
Ego wants to lead to the
it wants
drop
to
of
know.
foreign
That's right. Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So what Don, what did you see was happening to Flavius that isn't happening for you? What's the difference?
Oh, I can barely concentrate on what's being said. It's ridiculous. I'm just so confused. It's like spinning sort of
Yeah, you're in
I
flight
can't
mode.
even hear what's it's ridiculous. Hmm?
You're in flight
Just,
mode.
I suppose, just sort of doubt spinning. It's very familiar to me. There's just this confusion, and then there's thoughts saying, "You don't understand. You'll never understand. This will never work." You're this feeling of being pulled into this sense of not being able to,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. And that's your survival stuff. It just wants to keep you away from this because it sees it as dangerous
yeah,
or
yes, yeah.
unpleasant, you know, or whatever extreme. Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel there's some additional thoughts like you have to believe these thoughts. You have no choice. You're never going to not believe these thoughts. Those additional ones, and they feel really believable. And I keep watching those ones for the last year almost, going, you can't not believe these thoughts. And they feel believable. It's ridiculous.
Right. Okay. So what comes up for me there is it's easy when we're talking about this stuff to go, well, you shouldn't have stories. You shouldn't be doing this. You should do this. You shouldn't do none of that's real. You know, what's real is that you don't have control about what thoughts come up. They just come up, don't they? You can see that.
Yeah,
So when they come up and you label them as wrong or bad or inappropriate or whatever you label them as, all you do is introduce a whole new layer of story over the whole thing. Right? Now that can achieve the results that your original how can I put it? Your original inclination was to stop doing this, get away from it, go back, go and watch a movie or go and do something that will give you a pleasant feeling rather than this stuff which gives you a unpleasant confusion or whatever. It's this lizard brain in flight or fright mode that's working here. So it's easy to imagine that what we're saying is it shouldn't be that way, but it is, right? And the appropriate response for you is simply to recognize it, see what's happening. You're not looking to change it. You're not looking to improve. You're not looking to find out what you should be doing. All you're doing is watching it, noticing what goes on. That can be really difficult, because we're so big into making up stories about things, and we justify. There's the really old psychological experiment that was done when they took somebody, and it was to do with epilepsy in the beginning, but what they did was they split the brain down. They cut the corpus callosum between the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain, and then they I'm paraphrasing this in a big way, but basically what they did was they had asked the person to do something with their left hand, which is controlled by the right hand side of the brain. And then they asked somebody to do something with their right hand, which is controlled by the left side of the brain. And then they asked the left brain why the right brain achieved what it achieved, why it did what it did. And the left brain just made up stories. It was so gross, the stories that it made, the rationalizations that it came up with for why the left hand did what it did was just pure fiction. Right? And that's the left brain.
yeah, I've seen that. I've seen some of that stuff. It's funny. I know I've seen that research or read about it or seen it on YouTube or something. Yeah.
So it's your left brain that's overactive. Your left brain is always coming up with reasons for and excuses for and wanting to do things like that. Yeah. And that's the way it is. You don't do anything to change it. But if you watch it, and if you watch it without opinion, which can be a bit tricky, it will change. Yeah. It's a starting point.
Yeah.
Just watching. Yeah.
Thanks. I mean, when they're just listening to you now, I feel a little bit calmer. I mean, not very calm with all these people watching me being very confused, but I am a little bit calmer just listening to you kind of, and it feels a bit better. I don't know what to do after because it just, you know, it kind of pisses me off that it's always like this, and I don't know how to watch it without any judgment or any kind of any wish for it to be different. But even just listening to you makes me feel a little bit calmer about it.
Yeah, yeah. So if you could tune into your body when you're listening to these things and ask your body, does this sound right or does this sound wrong? And allow your body, you know, with each specific small thing, allow your body to say yes or no. Learning about what the body wants is a lot of what we're doing here.
Okay. That's okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll have a look.
Yeah.
All
right, I'll
thanks.
come on the soapbox again. This is
Yeah, thank you.
much. Somebody else help me here.
I was just watching a thing. Do you know Z-Dog MD was interviewing this guy, the English guy, Simon Brown, is that his name? Recently again. And he mentioned English guy, Simon Brown mentioned a book by a woman called Ali something. I'll have to look it up. Anyway, it's about going through the body trauma stuff and a 9-week course. I just downloaded it an hour ago, so about listening to the body. So I'm going to see if I can do that alongside what you're suggesting.
Okay, can I say something?
Absolutely. Yeah, jump in. Don't
Can
ask.
you hear me? Can
Yeah.
you hear me? I had to switch to my phone because my computer, the signal just isn't good. And so I never know what I'm doing. But coincidences, I just got finished watching the Z-Dog with Simon. I mean, like literally 45 minutes ago, which I thought was excellent. But what you just said, Vince, and so now I'm kind of sidetracked, is about, you know, the body telling you the truth. And so it just literally, when you said that, it just dawned on me. Yesterday, you know, my big issue is my 36-year-old son, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he called me, the car was broken, da, 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 da. And I said, well, I'm out of town. You know, I said, if you can get to my house is open, but I'm out of town. And, you know, he's got mental issues and his wife does too. But anyway, there was a little back and forth and he goes, okay, well, I'll talk to you later. And he hung up. So normally I would be like just totally thinking about this and immersed in it. And should I go home and should I fix it and da, da, da. But with all the work that I'm doing on myself, I didn't. And I kind of looked at my body, which I don't even realize I did until you just said that a little while ago. And I was like, how do I feel? And my body was fine. My body was absolutely fine, you know, and I was at some friend's house and they know all about this, you know. And so I said, you know, I said, normally I'd be so upset about Alex, but right now I'm just like, whatever. Because I think I listened to my body. Of course, the brain, okay, my mind is thinking, well, should I call him? Should I find out what happened? And maybe this happened and maybe that. And it's like stories, stories, stories. And so I'm just laughing at it, you know, because it's just stories.
Sounds great. Yeah.
You know, but boy, those stories are tough though. You know, they really are, because you want to believe them. I mean, it's, you know, and then the other part of it is like, well, you know, it's Christmas time and am I a bad mother? You know, blah, 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 blah. And so I think what you said as far as listening to your body was so important a minute ago, because I did look to my body, you know, and I was like, okay, what am I feeling right now? And I kind of went in and it was like, I'm okay.
Yep.
So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
And I love that. Yeah. So even though, this is something for you to listen to, Don. Even though you saw those stories there, you saw that there was a disconnect between the stories and the body, and you're able to laugh at the fact that those stories were present.
And they're still present.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
still present.
Yeah.
You know
So
what I
the
mean?
idea
It's
that the idea that they're going to stop instantly forever
Yeah.
is a joke, isn't it? That's something else to laugh at. That's another story. So the reality is that they stay around for a while. They will thin out. Believe me, they will thin out, but they'll stay around for a while. But you don't have to believe them. You can see that they're just mind trying to achieve something. So if you want to check whether a story's got any validity or not, look to the body. See what the body says about it. The body will say yes or no quite clearly. Well, maybe not so clearly in the beginning, but it will get clearer and clearer. Yeah.
I'd like to add somebody has their, I was going to add something to Don and his horse story, but you want me to wait till after Anna?
As Anna's saying, go.
Okay. So I want to say that a lot of times, because these stories are self-validating, that the fact the horse bit you right when you were asked about the job, our minds validate the thought, I don't like my job. And then we think, see, the horse knows I don't like my job too. Like that's validating that thought. But if you look deeper, if there's no meaning, the horse is validating contraction, not the thought that's causing the contraction. So it's really the sensation of contraction that's reflecting in the world, not believing I don't like my job. That's just a thought. It's the contraction underneath it to sit with, because maybe it's not true, or maybe it shows up a different way than we think it is. So our mind can't think of what job do I want to do, or what job don't I like, or this whole world and story about jobs and careers and purpose and all this stuff. It's the physical contractions in the body that we sit with. The stories are just stories. I hope that was helpful.
Okay, that makes sense, I think. Okay, I'll try and see how that goes. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, because I wasn't sure which story is the right one, because the horse doesn't know what I'm thinking, of course. It just feels something. So yeah, it makes sense. I need to go back to not thinking about stories about that.
Look, it's speculation, but there's a good chance that when that body contraction actually meant that you smelt differently as well to the horse. It can probably smell things we can't, but that's just a guess.
Yeah, I'm sure the feeling, the smell, the vibration, but it has nothing to do with if you like your job or not. The thought, I don't like my job, triggers those sensations. The story that you're believing that you don't like your job. It doesn't mean you're going to stay with your job or not. That's mind stuff. We don't know what's on the other side of the contraction, but the mind is using that thought and believing in that thought to trigger this unresolved contraction in the body.
Yeah. Thanks.
Your turn, Anna. And you don't.
Hello, everybody.
You don't have to put your hand up. Just jump in. You can put your hand up if you want, but yeah.
Okay. Just don't want to be rude, you know. It just feels very resonate, you know, with what's going on here about stories, a lot about stories as well. Last time we were chatting and you pointed, Vince, like there is a story going on. And so one day I was interacting on Facebook group with somebody, and then, you know, like I posted my reply about how dramatic and negative and dark and heavy this all is, you know, like, and where all this leading. And then someone else replied, you know, it's actually not like that, it's positive and this and this. And then only then I noticed, you know, like how much mind is really holding on that sad negative story, because mind literally starts, you know, that talking inside the head. No, you don't understand. That is my suffering. You can't take it away from me. I was just like, okay, and now I see there is a big story and there is like a very strong holding on that story. Okay, it was like, nighttime. I went to bed, and after this, mind just went completely nuts. It's like, mind attacks, like in the film Revolver, something like this started to happen. It's like mind here works like very with pictures, coming up with pictures. Like not only talking, but like visualization. So anyway, I was coming up, like it's standing in front, like holding arms in front of the door and not letting me to see what is behind the door. And I'm saying, like, I want to see. And mine just goes like, no, 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 no. And I say like, but I want to see. No. And I say, and it's like, no, I'm going to kill you. I was just like literally like mine just like really splitting that's like working against me. And then I said, but what is there? I just wanted to see. So mine just like settled down, put arms down, and like a small child, nothing is there. And then it just stands like this and it shouts at me, you can't abandon me.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically I fell asleep. Next morning I woke up and like I don't know, mind literally was going nuts. It was trying like so many different things. I was going, like begging for mercy. Like, just like I'm going to be a good girl. I'm not going to do anything. Just don't. And like, something else and something else. And it was like lunchtime. I was sitting like, you know what? They actually are all stories. This is story, that is story, and that is story. They all are thoughts. They are just all stories and no different about any other stories we are creating in life every day. And then once that realization came up, that's it. That's it. Mine just settled completely. There was nothing coming up. It was peace. But a couple days after that, after this event, I woke up at night. Normally, I don't know, for some reason, a lot of things are happening at night time. And so I woke up at night and fear was coming up. There were some thoughts about like life-related stuff, not awakening spirituality. It was just life-related stuff. And like thoughts, like fearful thoughts about future. And I just, like dropping into attention into body and just feeling how everything is moving there. And I can see like mind is trying to pull attention back into head again. So I'm dropping back in as pulling it. Like I go like, what are you trying to avoid to feel? And then next picture came up when it happened in the childhood, and a very, very strong fear response was there. Like that type of fear when like your heart is jumping out, like your guts are like dropping down, that sensation like fall, and like whole body shaking and face burning. It just, like animals getting scared, like when you're trapped and just like that's it, that's end of you. So okay, like it came up like this. Then a couple of days later, I was just like, but you know what? It did happen. And I went through that fear, no problem. It was this, like not pleasant sensations to feel it. It's fine. I managed that when I was a kid. And I'm sure, like this fear came up then again and again. So I managed that and I'm still okay. So I'm just like, I'm okay to feel it if that comes. But since that nothing really happened, but more about stories. I about reactivity because like I'm like working with that, and I couldn't understand like so it's not much reactivity, but it still happens, and normally it happens in traffics. Something like someone pulls in front of me or something, and I can see there is this like helplessness and no control thing, but there was something else missing and I couldn't understand what is this nagging. Something is like really really nagging and feeling like bitterness and hurtfulness, and then it clicked, because I watched some video and it really really clicked. They don't care about me. That's what, this story is going on. They don't care about me. They ignoring me. They don't care about me. But then today I was thinking about this. It's not like, it's what really is hurting that story. They don't care about me. Not that they don't care, it's okay. But because that's me, they don't care. And that means like I'm not lovable. That means they hate me. And that rejection and all this. And you can see how this all created. And just like, okay, and this is another story. So yeah, this has been happening in the past week. Stories and stories and another story, another story, another story, another story. And by the way, when Dawn was talking about that fight and flight response, and I was, like getting ready for my speech, I could feel, like there is like heart is going higher and all these things, like sensations. I just sitting there, like, okay. And next thing is you dropped attention in the body. Once I dropped attention in the body, it's all settled. It's all calmed down itself, doing nothing. It's first time I noticed that.
Right.
So if that is helpful, Don. So if you have anything to comment.
Hey, Anna.
Hello, Elad.
I just want to express appreciation. I think that was a beautiful, beautiful sharing, and just
thank you.
I just want a lot of appreciation. I could say I feel like it's a teaching. You're sharing. It's like a real-time teaching you're giving, because you're sharing so vividly the process of again and again acceptance happening again and again, and different things happening, and stories coming up, and then again and again acceptance, and then other layers of shadow work happening, and then goes through, and then another silence, and then another clarity, and it's so vivid.
That's how it feels.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there is a lot of them, that shadow stuff, and that's pretty subtle. Like before, when I was working, like doing a lot of emotional work, it's always like very heavy, like big stuff, like very obvious. Now it's just more subtle, and it's just like, something you just like, oh yes. And then like inside they are so tiny, so they don't really make that big wow, but it's like, oh yes, oh okay.
Yeah, sometimes they'll use fear to get you away, and other times they'll hide, and everything in between.
So it comes to me here, Anna, if anyone wanted to see a definition of what we could call the work, you've described it, as Elad said.
So basically everything is going the right direction.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. It's just different. It's just decoupling the sensation from the story and seeing that the story is just a story.
Yeah, like recently I have, like, it's just especially in this
decoupling.
time of the week, I have noticed this after Vincent, you said there's just like there is a story behind, and like once I noticed that, like yes, and that's just like story and story, another story, even about childhood. I had a dream about my dad, like he passed away when I was 18, and I had a dream about him last night. During the day today, I'm walking about and I'm thinking, oh, dad and mom and my childhood and this and that and that and dad was that. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's actually is another story I'm holding on. It's just like stories and story. Not like dad didn't do things, not like mom didn't do things, but there is how what interpretation I have created about that. Not like I mind, have created about that. And the story what I'm holding on. This is my suffering. This is what happened to me. Me. And it's always this me.
That's a self-referencing that's at the hub of every story. It's the linchpin.
Yes, it's just like a center of the universe. Another thing, but very funny, like I am the center of the universe. There is another 8 billion centers of the universe, but it can be only one center, like technically, isn't it? So everyone is, like there is a throne and everyone wants to, like trying to jump on that throne. I am better, I'm better, I'm better. Push me, me, me. Me.
You've got your own entertainment channel, eh, Anna?
Oh, yeah.
Non-stop live streaming.
Yeah. Like that, like if we think like center is just one, anywhere center is just one thing, but like in the universe there is no center full stop, because there is no, like, to get the center it has to be beginning and end, and then center in the middle. Universe, there is no beginning or end, so there is no center, so no one is the center. It's just another game of a mind. Oh, another thing what came up about them stories, like, nothing is wrong with stories themselves. Stories are fine. Believe in stories as something real. That's what makes a difference. So, like it was yesterday I noticed, oh, them stories are actually like a costume. Like we can jump into that costume and play this game. If we don't believe in this, we can play it as a game. Like, like a show, like a theater. And just change another story and change another story and just play the show. But as long as we, like as soon as we believe that is all real, that's where problem starts. Because we really take, and it's like, this is what has happened and this is reality. But yeah, that's something like this.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
You look very serious, David.
I'm unmuted now.
No, I can hear you now. Yep.
Okay.
I did that. That's better. I love a smile. You were looking so serious all the way through all of that, and it was very joyful, and yet you was looking so serious. What were your thoughts about what was happening for Anna?
Um,
I mean, I shouldn't have to say it here, but we're all totally honest. We don't, there's no bullshit here.
I identify with the, I guess, to me, that's mind experience, and we try to navigate, or I think one of the things that's new for me in all of this is coming out of the head and tuning into the body. So I tend to be in the head a lot. I think that's why I look serious. So
how did you apply it to yourself? I mean, did you say to yourself, I spent a lot of time in my head and I shouldn't do that, or some version of that kind of thing? What was your reaction to it for you?
I think it's kind of like a blow. It's like I had no idea. I didn't know that I was so stuck in the head. I didn't know that there was an alternative. So yeah, my tendency then would be to feel embarrassment. There's also a tendency here to think I know more than I do. Because I feel like the mind has covered so much ground. There's so much, I've consumed so much, so many teachings and books and videos, and so I guess LU kind of dismantled that. And like I said, it was a blow struck to that ego structure. But I kind of had something that I was hoping to get some help with. I don't know if in one of your recent meetings, one of the guys was toward the end talked about out of the blue this and like an urge to just sit down and cry, and that comes occasionally. And something that's been going on lately that I kind of recognize as having it's a familiar experience. We're in the middle of winter here, so it's cold. It's getting cold. So like I notice at work when I'm getting ready to leave, it's cold and it's dark, and these feelings come of just like an existential dread, just wanting to withdraw from everything, from all of this, wanting to curl up and just be warm and pain-free, stress-free, to be comforted. And I could use some help with that.
Yeah.
I can relate to that, what David says. Like for me, it feels like I want mommy, I want warmth, I want home, I want cuddle. Yeah, but that's basically the same what you are describing.
Yeah.
It seems to be
Yeah, go on.
cold and dark seem to be contributing triggers.
Mm. So we can make up a story that says this is probably the outcome of some really early experience in your life. You know, this could be back to being a baby, it could be when you were young, or it might be more recent, but if it were more recent, you most likely would be able to see the connection, whereas the existential nature of it that you mentioned there would suggest that it's even a pre-verbal thing. It's before you had language or something like that. Could well be. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We don't need to actually find the origin trauma that produces this kind of thing now. What's really interesting, and I've mentioned this before in another group, that there is no time difference between the original event and now. That time disappeared. It's as alive now in you as it was the day it happened, except that now you have developed all these mechanisms to avoid it. Whereas when it originally happened, you had no chance to avoid it at all. It was what it was. And it may have simply been that all kids go through trauma. It's just the nature of it. As soon as somebody speaks sternly to them, or if they feel hungry, or if they shit themselves, whatever, anyway, it's all trauma, right? And so it could well have been that you at some point felt cold and it was nighttime, dark, and you were crying for attention and you got none. And then that's just a story, and it may or may not be accurate, but here we are all these years later, and that is still affecting your life. That is still there in there. You're still responding to that particular event. We call that shadow work for obvious reasons. But it's not something that you need to fix directly. Simply being aware of it. And if you are aware of what is actually going on now, it deconstructs the whole thing. It's like the fear control mechanism requires you to not see it clearly. It requires it to just be a deep, dark thing, hovering and menacing, but never actually investigated. Because the moment you start looking at these things, they fall apart. So what to do for you now is simply keep watching. And when that happens to you next time, which it will, most likely, you will bring a different perspective to it. You will start looking at it with more curiosity. Instead of just responding to it, reacting to it, wanting to change it, you will actually be a bit more curious about it. So it'll be really, really interesting to watch what happens with this as time goes on. And what have I told you? In really broad terms, what I've told you is it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to fix it. If watching it happens, great. That will. It's really hard to get language to conform for this kind of stuff. What will happen as a kind of a background thing is that you will take your current adult perspective and the tools, the skills that you've developed with life, you will take that back to that infant state where you had no skills, you had no ability to control it. You were just really a naive and totally vulnerable to the circumstances at the time. And that feeling of wanting to sit down and cry is that infant wanting to fully express this pain that whatever it was this pain, cold, dark, abandoned, maybe. You can play with, you know, we talk about thoughts like they're an enemy, but they're not an enemy. We don't want to get that into our head. Often if a great technique is to ask yourself a question and then notice the first thing that comes to mind as the answer, and give that first thing that comes to mind some legitimacy. Consider it seriously, I'm saying, and you'll be amazed at what you'll answers you'll give yourself if you do that kind of thing. So would you ever, have you sat down and cried in, say, the last 12 months? Do you allow that to happen?
It does not get to that point. Something else I would associate it with is fear of loss, like a recent loss of a pet. Just the fear of loss of my primary attachments.
Right. Okay, let's stop for a moment because you're getting back up into your head about this. So when you said the fear of that recent loss of a pet, what did you feel? Where did you feel it?
Upper chest primarily.
Heart area, above that?
Maybe a little above.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking about this. It extends up into the head and below into the gut. In the past I would have labeled it sorrow, but from listening to you, I recall you calling that just another label or something like that. Like, so.
Yeah.
Can I add to this?
Yeah, go.
labels can be helpful until they're not. If the label's used to avoid a sensation, it's not helpful. If a label's used to bring you into the sensation, it's very helpful.
Okay.
And a loss, sorrow, or an abandonment, or whatever the story that would attach to that, it's all the same basic feeling. So it doesn't matter if you were abandoned as infant, it's that aloneness, the sorrow of losing something you love. It's the aloneness, it's the emptiness. And those labels can be useful. You don't want to disregard them if you're not crying and you're not getting into the depth, because it comes in layers of label and emotion and sensation. And if you go into your head about those layers and say, oh, that's just a story, that's just a label, they can be very useful tools to bring you in.
It seems to me that there's also a kind of a limit where the sensations, you can only do so much verbally or conceptually, and then it's just sensation. And
yes, it is
and
just
that's it.
sensation. Yes, and the sensation can get very intense. So it's really being very aware of your process in, and if you're bypassing an emotion, or if you're just setting with those sensations can be very like vibrations, they can be very intense, and they might bounce back and forth from sensation to emotion to label to sensation, and you just go for the ride. And when you get in your head and try to understand it or try to dig too much for it, or a lot of doing happens in the head rather than just being with the ride of going in and out of this, because you might dip in the sensations too rough, so you jump back into emotion and label, or you just bypass emotion, jump right into story and label. So the mind's going to handle and dip in what it can handle. And so you just go for the ride.
I think when it starts to feel rough, that's when I want to use the word collapsing. Like it feels like an implosion, and I wonder if I'm resisting, if that's a resistance. Like it's the opposite of softening.
It doesn't matter. Resistance is okay, because if resistance is happening, that's what's happening.
Okay.
So then you feel resistance, then don't make that wrong. You don't make any part of the ride wrong. And if it dips in and it gets too intense and your mind out of survival jumps back into distraction, that's okay. That's what it could handle right now. And then maybe it'll dip in a little deeper next time. You can't make it. You just go for the ride. And resistance is part of that. All those labels, because you were feeling a sensation and your mind jumped up into labeling and called it resistance. It was just a shift of sensation. So it's all okay.
Yeah, there's a kind of almost a pattern that is pretty common, and yeah. Anyway, so what essentially our body responds to what the circumstances are, and our mind tries to take us away from that. So mind is almost always an escape from what you're feeling. That doesn't make it wrong. It's just a technique that we've developed as humans and in our society. In a different society, but sometimes it's not the mind that takes us away. Sometimes it's the urge to activity of some kind. We'll go and do something. So that can be an escape as well. So just the idea that the mind has a job, it has a place, it's legitimate, but it's used inappropriately a lot of the time. And so, like with labels, if label is a description of what's going on, it can kind of be useful. If you're communicating, you're going to use them all the time. That's the way communication works. You need it. But what normally happens with a label is that the moment we label something, we start a relationship with the label rather than with the thing we labeled. So it's an escape again. So like Jenny is saying, if they can be good if you recognize them for what they are. Yeah. So,
And,
yeah.
and don't make yourself wrong for them, because it's part of the process. That's
Yeah.
part of
My-
unravel, so it's okay.
My background is years of talk therapy, and the notion I had coming out of that is that it was like pulling everything out, spreading it out on a big table, looking at it, seeing how the pieces fit together. But in all the years that I did that, looking back now, I can see that there was no attention paid to feelings in the body. It was all head based.
Yeah.
And I did that for 8 years.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good income for a therapist that can keep you going back for 8 years, eh? Yeah.
Well, so now you can take those stories that you came up with your therapist, and you can ride those stories into the body now. And so when your mind starts to tell a story again, you just recognize, oh, okay, I'm trying to get away from this. Do I want to go ahead and get away from this? Like, it's okay. It's not that you shouldn't try to get away from it. If the mind is doing that, then all right, I'm going to go get away from it right now. But you know you're doing that. And then when it comes in again, you might feel a little safer because you're being gentle with yourself, that you might go a little deeper this time because you know that if you want an out, you can take it. I mean, that was my experience. And then when I wanted a little deeper, it was safe because now I was starting to partner with myself rather than horsewhip myself into these sensations and making myself wrong when I wouldn't face them. And sometimes it was so confusing, I didn't know how to face them. So then my mind would throw shame on top of that. Now you're weak. Now you failed, all this BS. So
Yeah.
it's kind of going for the ride and making it all okay and partnering with yourself instead of making that mind a bad thing.
Can I say something as well about that? I have something very similar to what you are saying, Jenny. There was a time when labeling labeling emotions was really needed because I couldn't even recognize what I'm feeling inside myself. And like there was a chaos. So that structure really was needed. But once you see like what core wounds are, like what emotions I'm bringing, what stories behind that, you can start to drop deeper and, go just into sensations and notice, oh, this is causing this. And I don't know, maybe that's, works different for anyone, but I have noticed like today when I notice the story is about me, once I see it's a story about me, you can really feel this contraction. If that is just a story, okay, but as soon as that is about me, that goes here. So yeah, it's sometimes you can play with them and see how that affects you, how you're feeling. And about getting from a head to the body, I got this very good advice to set a timer for every 15 minutes during the day. And every time timer goes on, you're back in the body. Just checking in. And what you say, Vincent, in another video, go into sensations that deep. You can't even describe them anymore. It just worked perfectly. You just like really just in completely and nothing. There is no words coming up. It's just beautiful.
And the process is so perfect because we're all in different places of process. And it's a journey for me. It's a journey of discovery, a journey of discovering all layers of this being. And none of them are wrong. And ultimately, the stories just leave because they're no longer needed. But they're there until they're no longer needed. It's just this beautiful journey that we don't need to judge at all, just become aware of and explore. It's a journey into who we really are.
Good stuff. How are you, Helen? I can only see your forehead there. Now I can see you all.
Hiya. Hiya. Sorry I've not been to these groups. I've been watching you online though. And so thank you for putting them on every week. It looks like there's 2 a week. So I've been catching up with that. But I'm really struggling actually this week. Really struggling. there's a man coming to me into sort of my group, my cohorts of contemporaries, and he completely winds me up. Totally, I could punch him, and I don't really know the guy, but he really gets a really strong reaction from me.
Yeah,
And I really, and I've spoke to somebody about it. I said, why, you know, do you feel like that? And there's not many other people who feel like that. And they actually feel sorry for him because he's got some sort of, I think it's autism actually, undiagnosed autism. But there's something about him I just cannot do. And I've worked with people with difficulties, learning difficulties, that I actually empathise with. But so I kept asking why, and I kept going into body and keep asking, and I kept writing all these notes about him. And why is it? What is it? What is in him that I just get angry about? So, but nothing sort of coming really to other than he's manipulative. So I say, well, am I manipulative? And yes, in the past I have. And then, coincidentally or serendipitously, but I saw the toxic starting point in the fetters. No, and I'm a passive aggressive bully. And I sort of know it. I do know it. Because in the past, I've been hurtful to friends and colleagues, and I've known I've done it. It's just awful. It's just, and I know I am.
it's not awful, Helen. It's wonderful. It's actually really, really wonderful that you can see this. Is it the passive aggressive bully in him that triggers this for you?
Maybe. I've got laryngitis at the minute. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not coping with it very well.
Yep. So I see you responding to a story that says, I shouldn't be this way. That's my guess.
Yeah.
How accurate is
Yeah.
it?
I mean, when the lady was talking earlier, the Irish lady, Irish accent lady, said, Anna, and you always say it was beautiful, and all I felt was jealousy.
Yeah. Great. That's great.
I just
Helen,
felt envious.
Helen, I want to say you something. I have been doing very bad things, what we call bad things as well. Remember one thing, at that time you didn't know better, and you've done the best you knew at that moment. It's guilt is speaking in you now. You didn't know better. If you knew, you wouldn't do it. That's the best coping.
But I sort of did.
Yeah, I did as well. I did many horrible things I'm not proud of, but it happened. And like at that time, that's only thing I knew what is the best, to handle life.
But
We all do.
we don't want to make Helen feel better at the moment.
I was going to say, no, we don't. No, we don't. This
Oh,
feeling
really?
you're feeling, no.
Oh, really? I'm enjoying this, am I?
No,
Am
you're
I
not enjoying it.
Yeah.
No, Helen, wait, no. We don't want to make you feel better because you're accessing something that from very, very young that hasn't been processed when you were maybe shamed as a child. I'm making that story up. But when you were very, very little, you weren't free to be yourself. So you were punished and shamed and everything else. Now that's a story, but I'm telling you this story so that you can understand why we don't want you to feel better right now. We want you to feel. You're finally accessing something that hasn't been processed, and you want to feel it through to the other side.
I sort of know that now. It's taken me years. I've been looking at this for years and years and years, for 40 odd years. But just latterly, I realise I've not been able to go into my body, and it's all been head. And when the gentleman mentioned earlier on about feeling cold, when I see, when I do have a sort of little vision of from years ago, I've looked into, you know, we used to do the child, healing the child.
So go back, because you're going in your head a bit now, is go back and feel all of that feeling about being passive aggressive. Go back and feel and watch the stories spin off it. I'm bad, I'm shit. Those stories are very important information. So you just go back in and feel it and just watch the stories spin off like little tornadoes. Yeah.
Oh, it's just.
And pretty soon you'll be able to just be there and observe those stories spinning off. It's just throwing the stories out. And you don't have to change anything right now. Just feel it. Feel it and watch.
I can't. I'm in my head again. I know.
Yeah. Maybe another time you triggered again. Then we dip in a few times sometimes and pop back out. That's okay too.
Yeah.
And then when it gets triggered again, don't feel better. If people try to make you feel better because of the compassion, just say, "Oh, it's okay. I'm finally accessing." And then you're going to feel and watch all those little stories spin off.
And the brilliant thing is, you're seeing it. You're seeing what's happening. That's big.
It feels like something's on the surface rather than buried deep. It feels like something more on the surface. When the man mentioned feeling cold, I feel when I go back, it's just feeling real cold and abandoned, and I can sort of, I felt that straight away when he was speaking.
Can you access it now? Can you feel that?
I could do, yeah.
And you can also feel the part of you that wants to stop that from happening, that wants to escape from that.
Yeah, but less so.
They're both trying to look after you. Both those feelings are trying to look after you. So one part wants to get it out and get it over with. Another part wants to avoid it. But they're both trying to look after you, yeah?
It does feel like that, yeah. I know it's been a protective thing. You know, it's been like a protecting me from when I'm surviving or something. I don't know, but I do feel it's protecting.
Yep. And like David's experience, you could lay it all out on a table and look at every bit of it. But if you look at it intellectually, it's not going to change anything. You'll just add more stories to what you lay out. It's feeling it. It's allowing yourself to feel it. It's having compassion for yourself. And it's having compassion for the circumstances that were surrounded the original event as well. Because if there are other people involved, and there is likelihood, very good likelihood, they're just responding to their own conditioning. Nobody planned to do anything. It just happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a way, I could say, and I might be right or I might not be, that you actually have at your conscious level all of the tools you require to work through this. And you know, I guess that that's only going to happen when you face it, when you walk forward through it. You will never fix anything by escaping from it.
I once went on, it was a retreat, a Rupert Spira retreat. And every time I go on these retreats, I was absolutely petrified. Fear would just engulf me all the time. And I went into one satsang and he said to a gentleman, he said, you will have to face it at some point. and I had to run out the room. Something really hit me like a ton of bricks, and I had to run out the room, and I was screaming, and you know, they came to me, and I've never had anything like that before. It was something, and I could feel myself physically pushing away.
And was that the same stuff we're looking at now, or was that something different?
I think so, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, you have progressed a long way from that time then.
Mm.
It might still be
Yeah,
the desire to escape from it, but you can see it now. So don't underestimate the value of this seeing that you have, this clarity that you have about what goes on for you. Seeing that it's story, seeing the sensations, that's gold. And you've got it.
This reminds me of something that I recently saw with people or a situation that is pushing my buttons, as she's describing with the one gentleman. It occurred to me that is like an angel sent to me exactly what I need in that moment, and that really shifted things when that awareness was there in those situations.
Absolutely. And she's nodding. She knows that too. Yes. Yeah, good one. Yeah, you can hate him and love him at the same time. Yeah, you can love him for being so hateful, or the other way around. Yeah,
It's like it's like a gift to you sitting in front of you, such an opportunity.
Absolutely.
Because they're not always there.
Well, I actually I asked for it. I said, please, can you send me something that's going to smack me and it's going to really hurt or really cause some sort of ruction? And along it came. So, yeah, it was a blessing. Yeah. I could still punch him. I could still smack him.
Yeah, but it's a good, healthy, clean smack. Yeah, good one. I like it. Yeah. How are you traveling, Jeremy?
Yeah, I was just thinking that one of the challenges I've had is I haven't recently had a lot of strong emotions, feelings to work with. When I am prompted with a question from a video or book to do a bit of an audit with my beliefs or other thoughts or things that I'm identifying with, there's often not things that come up. But what's great is that when those things that aren't new, but they come up again, driving has been a great tool for me, because I instantly, in different situations, will feel that emotion, feel the sensations, tie it to emotion of frustration, anger, and I'm like, oh, there's one. Yes. I now have something that I can feel and investigate, and there's a belief here, there's an assumption here, there's a thought that I'm carrying around about how things are supposed to be, or throughout my life I've had so many, always looking for and collecting rules for how best to do things. That there's a right way, and once I find it, all right, now there's another rule that I can put in my tool belt to live a great life. And I've learned in recent weeks how how many rules I've been carrying around and how they affect my emotions and what they trigger in my body. And it's just been so interesting when those come up.
So it's still happening, collecting rules?
No, the rules are fading. I'm finding myself if there's a decision to make, whether it's what to eat, what to do today, moment to moment, like previously I would have so many preferences or rules about what my schedule should be or what I need to do today. And I find myself not having any real preferences that I could find, and that being open to, like, feeling that it's real, that I really don't have a preference. I know I've said those things and, you know, throughout my life, but it didn't feel as real as it does now. And so then I'm questioning, well, gosh, am I just saying I don't have any preferences because I don't want to have preferences, because I'm not supposed, you know, telling myself that I'm not supposed to have strong preferences, but I'm finding that they've been in so many ways relative to where I've been at, they've dissolved.
Good one.
And just being totally open.
Excellent. Yeah.
It's bizarre.
In line with what seems to be a bit of a theme today, if instead of asking your head for questions, for answers, if you ask the question and watch what your body answers, you'll get a much more honest response. So it's particularly about preferences. I mean, that's, yeah, desire and aversion are probably the last vestiges of selfing that we, well, the last gross vestiges of selfing that we do. So if you can distinguish between a body preference and a desire that comes out of a story, that's a huge one, big one to do. Yeah. And
do you have anything?
Sorry.
This feels related. If I ask a question of my mind or my body, and there's just stillness, or nothing, no answers, whether it's a sensation that's arising or thoughts that arise.
I would look at that stillness straight away, and I would say, is that stillness a peaceful silence, or is it a flight, fright, freeze response, or somewhere in between those two? So that no response, no, that answer of that is an answer. The answer of no answer is, it could well be a protective thing, or it could well be a really open, that, yeah, there's nothing there, just nothing there. So again, the body will tell you what your mind can't tell you. Your mind will always rationalize, but your body will be saying quite clearly yes or no or indifference or whatever. But that's a good one. Yeah.
Thanks. One other maybe practice that I have found helpful for years off and on, I've done morning pages journaling, just stream of consciousness writing,
Yeah.
and I'd gotten a little bit away from it, and I think it might have been in one of the LU books, I can't remember which one now, talking about using pen and paper to help get some clarity about what thoughts are arising.
Yep.
And I have found that to be a really interesting and helpful tool.
Yep, yeah, good
My
one. Yeah, I like it.
my thoughts tend to bounce around, and I can't, like, when I want to latch onto them, I can struggle. But when I have to put them on paper,
Yep. Yeah.
it brings a lot of clarity and realness to what's really happening in my head.
And if you can develop that stream of consciousness thing, and it sounds like you have, that is just absolutely excellent in terms of. I've said quite blatantly that the mind will lie and connive and do all of those kind of things, but it also will be honest with you. But you got to kind of catch it unawares, and that stream of consciousness gives you that opportunity. So I often use the technique where I say to somebody, look, I'm going to ask you a question, but what I want to know is what's the very first thing that comes to mind as an answer. Right? Don't edit it. Don't do anything. Just tell me exactly what pops up first, because that's usually pretty honest. Right? What comes afterward will be the rationalizations and the getting away from it kind of thing. But that stream of consciousness stuff is really good value. Yeah.
I found that related to that, when you're writing the stream of consciousness, and then you stop writing, but you catch yourself continuing to think without writing it, it's like, oh shit, I don't want to write what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like there was something that was preventing it from
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
onto paper. Like
yeah.
I didn't want to accept it, or I didn't want to believe it, or I
Yeah,
didn't want to be thinking it.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a subtlety. You're getting down to those much more less obvious areas of things. That's great. That's good. Yeah, you've got the tools too. Yeah, they're doing well. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. So what's missing for you?
To to practice what you were preaching, the first thing that honestly came to mind for me was nothing. And then I started thinking, is it really nothing, or am I just saying that because I don't want to accept something that I deeply feel is missing?
Could be either, could be either. And I mean, to say that I am absolutely forgive the words for their inaccuracy, but let's to say that I'm really contented with where I am now, that can be really threatening. That can stimulate a whole lot of stories about where you think you should be. But on the other hand, it could be exactly as you say. It could be a cover-up as well. Yeah. But how will you know? Ask your body. That's just so obvious, but we don't do it. Yeah. Is it really nothing? I don't. Yeah. I mean, I just ask myself that question. What's missing? And it's we immediately want to go into rationalizations and everything, but yeah, nothing. It's pretty good as it is. Yeah. Is it that way for you? Is it pretty good as it is?
Yeah. At the when you were kicking off the call, you had asked about, you know, who's not awake or who is awake. I can't remember how you asked it. And something that's been arising for me lately is this thought of, not that I don't care, but that like it's not going to matter, because the things that I'm doing now in trying to bring awareness to my bodily sensations, to what's really going on in my visual field, or what I'm hearing, smelling, tasting, whether I'm quote unquote awake or not, that's not going to change. It reminds me of I'm probably going to mess this up, but some like Buddhist notion of like, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water; after enlightenment, chop wood. And so it's almost like, if I were to awaken and see things differently, what would be different? Maybe I will, maybe my, well, here's another stop again. It's like I'm still going to be I'm still going to be bringing my attention to what I sense, see, feel, smell, being curious and listening to my thoughts, but not giving them the attention that they want, or the belief that they're real. And so that's where, because the question that you asked me is one that's arisen off and on over recent weeks. And I don't know if it's a story I'm telling myself. I don't know how much I care. I have found, maybe I'll just kind of close this out with, earlier this year, I became, or actually this is probably a year or two ago, became aware of the idea of trying to bring formal meditation practice outside of the formal practice and into just how you carry yourself throughout the day, and bringing that mindfulness or attention or awareness as much as you can in all of your things. And I remember initially having so much trouble with that. I'd meditate for 10 minutes in the morning, and then 4 o'clock think, oh my gosh, like I've just been mindlessly walking through the day, and just now I realized that I was doing that. And sometime in recent weeks, I realized that it seems like it's flipped, where I'm much more able to be present with bodily sensations, what I'm seeing in other senses.
So another way to say what you just said would be that you're no longer distracted as much by the mental stuff.
Yeah, I'm pausing because I'm trying to understand whether that resonates as true, or whether it's just bullshit that I want to believe. But it's it feels, I think I'm in denial of whether that's real. And it's been so long that hasn't been an experience that
Mm.
I don't know whether I feel worthy of having that be my experience.
Mm. There's a bit of juice there. I mean, where did the idea even come from? No, I'm not literally asking that, but this idea of worthiness. So do you figure that if I mean, I do understand what you say. I mean, I would never go out in the street and announce that I'm awake. You know, that's that's an obvious trap for a whole lot of things. But you have some story somewhere about what worthiness is to be awake, or do you use the word enlightenment?
Maybe that's to just explore my thoughts. That might be part of it, is that for a decade, the concept, the stories were enlightenment, and they were much more mystical and magical.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until this year or the last couple years where awakeness and some of what that means is more accessible.
Mm.
So I don't use enlightenment, but
Yeah.
maybe I'm dragging that along with it. And so like
Could be, yeah. Yeah, it's a horrible word, I reckon. But anyway, I agree with you, though. Yeah, we can drag it along. So and it's part of the psyche of everyone to do this comparison thing. And it's pretty obvious when we just compare ourselves to other people that we know, but when we compare ourselves to characters in literature, characters in history, when we compare ourselves to Buddha, it seems like a huge ego thing to say, well, I've got what Buddha had. It might not be true, but but regardless, I mean, to say it is one thing. To think it is almost as bad as saying it. But if Buddha was sitting in front of you and you were having a conversation and he could speak your language and understood what you were saying, I'm imagining that he would say, he's not special, he's an ordinary person, and that he's just discovered something. And yet we've got this weird thing about how special it has to be. Waking up is not special. It's different, it's unique in the society that we're in, but is it special? I don't think there's anything special about it. It's an interesting one. But we are presented with a constant comparison. I had a interesting experience. You'll hear me often say it's really good when shit comes along. It gives us something to work with. It's an opportunity. What David was saying earlier to Helen, yeah. I had this experience where somebody I've been working with, not in this area, as a job, and we had a stand up, yell at each other, fight, and what it was about was me don't know the right word, refusing, I was rebelling against the bullshit that in order to be socially something, I would have had to accept bullshit from other people, and I would have had to pretend and give out bullshit myself. And I didn't have it in me, you know, I didn't have it in me. I said, I'm out of here. I'm walking away. I want nothing more to do with this whole arrangement, because nobody's straight. Nobody's honest. Everybody's bullshitting about everything all the time. And I'm sick of it. That was a lot for me to work with there. But that comparison with other people, I've got no internet at the moment. I'm using the internet on my phone because our internet's down, and I've been trying to get this fixed for such a long time, and I've had 5 technicians turn up at the house. I've had hours and hours and hours on the phone trying to fix it, and I've got no internet. And so consequently our streaming service on our TV doesn't work, so we're having to watch live TV. And it's pretty boring, mostly. Most of the live TV I'm not finding engaging at all. Anyway, yesterday, my wife put it on Fox News. I don't know if you guys know what Fox News is. I couldn't believe the bullshit that was going on. I could not believe it. And these people were patting each other on the back saying, you were right about vaccinations. You know, it's proven that, and they went going on and on and on about all this kind of stuff, you know. And I just went, I've got to watch this, you know. This is how a lot of the world works. I've really got to watch this. And in the end, I couldn't. I just had to give up, you know. There was nothing of value there for me at all. But the realization that a large part of the world think like that puts us at a bigger juxtaposition when we start comparing ourselves to other people. And even though a lot of people I know who are good people, they're friends and they're good people, got weird ideas about the way the world works, and they're not going to change. They're not interested in this stuff. I can't tell them anything that's going to change it.
Yeah.
So I've got to live with them. I've got to interact with them. Yeah.
They think we've got weird ideas about how the world works.
Absolutely, they do. Yeah. and they're right, because we're very much in a minority, I think. But yeah. So but what I'm talking about there is this sense of worthiness thing, this sense of how you fit in with and so on. That's a tricky one, isn't it? So to be satisfied with, you know, satisfied is not the right word. To be content it can be frightening.
I've been told my whole life that being content isn't good enough, isn't okay. You should want, I should want more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? So that we're not only, it's the values that our society holds that we're recognizing as crap. But yet we still have to live in that society. That's tricky, isn't it? The idea that we've got to work hard to achieve something, that we've got to be worthy. That's very much a societal thing, isn't it? You've got to be worthy. And you get worthy by working hard, by trying a lot, by efforting. Yeah. Oh God, it's an interesting trip, isn't it? I love it. Yeah. How about you, Kristen? How are you traveling? Not in your car today.
I get off of work and then I am late to the meeting, especially with the time change. I appreciated this conversation. So many pointers for me in what is it Jeremy? How
Yeah.
you're inquiring. I don't know. Yeah, I just said, I don't know. That's really funny. It's really funny. I, where I get tripped up is with my son still. I still do. And I was talking to him and yeah, something that you all said just made me crack up because it made me remember that he said, I hardly say anything. He's doing all the talking. He's 17. He doesn't want to hear anything here. And so I'm diligently not saying anything. And then I go to say something like, oh, even if it's seemingly so benign, right? I'll say something and he'll say, see, I'll say something. I mean, I'll just try to think of something that I would say like, oh, tell me more about that. Say it's like this. And it's like an open invitation. Like I'm not opinionating. He'll say, see, I hate how you do that. You think you know something. You don't know shit. And what cracks me up is it's like, he's absolutely right. I don't know shit. I really don't. And I don't even know what to do at all in that situation at all. It's like checkmate or something. He's incredible. He's incredible. You can't say anything without him saying, you're full of shit. I'm like, he's a genius. You're right. I can't say anything. And I can't, because anything I go to say, it's basically anything I go to say is trying to make something different in some subtle way. So he's absolutely right. Like, it's weird. I mean, I've seen this over and over and it cracks me up how many times I need to see this again to see it. It's really amazing. And I have so much opportunity because he is like stunning. I just have to listen. Basically, I just have to listen to what he says. And it appears as though he's completely deluded, and I want to say that, but actually, if I really listen to what he's saying, he's speaking absolute truth. You don't know anything. Let me check. By God, you're right. It's so wild. It is so wild. But I'm no saint here. I'm just getting tripped up all the time. And then it takes me time, evidently, to see this. So whatever you all said, I don't know what it was. It just gave me a refresher. So I'm traveling more lightly because you just got me to see this. And I wasn't even trying. It just like came to me and I started laughing again at how I got, like I hoodwinked, like it's even tell me more about that. He caught it. It's basically saying that's code for, I don't want this. I may as well have just said that. I don't want this. It's some form of pushing him away by acting as if it's like a huge charade. It's like, and I can, I'm trying to be so neutral. Bullshit. I'm like, actually, what was happening is I was basically trying to do something. Like it was basically saying not this. And like, what would be better? Like a checkmate. I can't make a move. It's awesome. I don't know what to do. Oh man. It's amazing. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I don't know why it's so funny in this moment. Yeah.
Just I've got
You do?
everything you're saying is resonating so much because I've got a 15 and 16-year-old girls, and you're like every impulse that comes up about some feedback or advice or guidance that I want to give, then there's a voice in my head that's like, what the, you're full of shit. Like, how do you know better?
Yeah.
What have you figured out?
Yeah. I mean, my daughter did it to me. I was just going to relegate this to my son, but my daughter did it to me the other day. And again, it's the same thing. I'm masquerading as, you know, good or something like this. And like, we're going to go see my parents. And she's like, yeah, I'll say it. Basically her message is, I'll see them in whatever shape or form. And I'm saying, no, I mean, my dad's going to die any minute. And, so I want to make it like, I want to really listen to him, and I want to go, and I want it to be a certain way so that I can, you know, I have all these ideas. Like, I can give my mom and dad the thing that I never gave. Like, and so I'm going to do it on this trip, and I have these ideas in mind. Yeah. And then I run it by my mom, and she has no interest in it. I'm like, well, how about it's just me and Julia, my daughter. We come and we just, and it's just the four of us. And I'm having this idea in mind. Like, finally, I'll give the thing that my mom's saying I never gave, which was like full acceptance, something like this. Like, I'm going to give. And then my mom doesn't want to have it that way. She wants the whole family to get together. And I'm like, but you see them all the time. I'm coming down and I just want to see, how about if it's just the four of us? It'll just be so much more. And it's as if she doesn't even hear me. She just absolutely has to have it her way. This is all my commentary. And then my daughter, so simply, it was just like, you just do what you need to do, Mom. Whatever makes you feel comfortable. She's basically calling me out. She was calling me out on that I'm trying to manipulate a situation again to make me feel as if I'm doing something that isn't even wanted. I mean, it's just like, oh my gosh, my 19-year-old daughter is calling me out. So she didn't say you don't know anything. That's my brother's message. But I mean, pretty much all I have to do is listen to them. Oh my goodness. So there it is. Hot again. Tail between the legs. Like, I didn't even know what to say. I haven't even told her. I'm just sort of like, yeah, see what you mean. Okay, we'll just go down there. We'll do it exactly how they want to do it. But I still get confused. It's just, like, say with that one, what about me? This is the question. Here I you know, I'm doing all this. I want to cross check to make sure, wait a minute. Am I just like laying down here and not including myself? Because really, my dad's going to die and blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. So just that cross-checking, but I literally heard myself say, what about me? I mean, this is hilarious. This thing that rears up, what about me? And then I manipulate it to make it look about like I'm doing it for them. Yeah. But it's just a lie. So anyway, my kids. Yeah, they're the ones. Yeah, they're the ones that are in the dark. Right.
It's a tricky
They're
one.
in the dark. They're in the dark showing me the light. It's just hilarious. Like, it really is, because they're completely caught up in, you know, I could say all these things in their self-image. I mean, my son said, this is the last thing I'm going to say, it's for your entertainment. And he told me, like, he's like nothing. He's just like a foot short of being a supermodel, but you know, he's just like, when you got it, you got it. You were born in with some features, right? And he told me that he thinks you might get some jawline surgery to correct the jawline. Oh my God. Like that's complete insanity, right? But meanwhile, that he's so highly capable of just showing me my errors. It's just amazing. Like, how could someone so insane be so I don't know, just equally able to point, I guess, because I'm listening. I'm finally listening.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's your perspective. He probably doesn't even realize what he's saying. It's you that's taking it the way you're taking it. But I want to ask you this, and I wonder, so one of the things that came to my mind was, how should we be with our kids? How is it to be the best parent? And I don't know that there's any real answer to that, but I think authenticity plays a big part in it. But sometimes when they want to shut you down, it's hard to be authentic, isn't it? How do you feel about your son shutting you down when he does that? When he throws that comment at you, he's shutting you down, isn't he?
Yeah, completely, utterly.
Is that frustrating? Or, you were laughing about it when you were telling us, and you were recognizing that your perception of what he was saying was valuable to you. Yeah. But
only later, yes.
If coming from him, there is this, shut up, Mum, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
That must
and
be
it's just
hard
like,
to cope with, eh?
yeah, the frustration, that's what was there. That was what was there. And sure, I wanted to push back, but futile. Like, he's already like, no, he's not going to have a word, not a word. It wasn't until I was driving home from work just now and I was listening to you all that I remembered that he said, you don't know shit. And then it just dawned on me, God, he's absolutely right. But yes, and which is just was like, it made it so much lighter. But in the moment, that's not what I was with. When he said this, I was with, this is exactly, I'm so, gosh, I can't do anything here. I can't do anything here. There's no room for me.
And
it's like,
you've got so much stuff.
This is no fun.
And he doesn't want to know about it.
No, it's no fun. So, right? It's like, well, what fun is this? It's just like him talking to himself, basically. So, yeah, stepping away just in case he's actually home. Hearing me say this. Yeah. So there, all I could do in that moment, I remember, is, as I reenact it now and just feel into it, is simply that. Feel into it. Feel into what this is. Total, evidently it's just total shutdown. Total, I don't want to hear anything, but sit at the corner, sit outside with me, and I'm going to talk to you, but I don't want you to say anything. So, okay.
So,
that's not that much fun.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I don't get to say a damn thing. I don't get to like act interested. Well, say, oh, tell me more. I don't get to do anything. Don't you want a playmate to bat around ideas? And
no. You're just an old fuddy-duddy that doesn't know anything.
That sounds like super, like that's an access point to something. Like, if, I don't know if I'm just feeling into it but the shutdown, the I don't matter, like there's energy in there. I can feel this energy in there that it feels like it seems to be being bypassed. Like, yeah, I don't know shit. That's true. I don't know shit. Wow, that's awesome. And he's reflecting that back. Cool. But then right underneath that is, don't you want a playmate? I don't matter. There's juice in there still that I can feel. That this is a great access point too, because they're both true, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I want to have some fun.
Yeah, I want to have some fun. Maybe I don't want to just listen. Like, there's like some charge underneath that. You're right, I don't know. Like, they're both true. They're both happening. I
Yeah,
don't
and look
know
at how
shit.
much
I don't wanna play.
here's the funny part is look at how much fun I'm having in this moment with this content. And I'm
Yeah.
saying I want to have some fun and I want to have it, you know, like in a specific way, like and oh, here's the other thing. The more and more I you know, I don't know shit and he somehow I take the I don't impose anything. Like I don't try to manipulate. The more and more I don't manipulate. Mhm. Um I don't know if this is true. I can't really say this for sure, but there is some fun here and there, like with him.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that charge, because I'm experiencing too, that
With
charge
him.
of what about me? Because I have adult kids and the whole charge of what about me and don't you want to play and don't you want to interact? And yes, you're right, I don't know shit. And it's like this weird kind of both happening kind of thing. And there is a me that's dying in that.
Mhm.
Me that's dying in that, but to not, you know, for me, it's like to feel that me dying, to feel it and be with it and the me that wants to know something and the me that wants to play and the me that wants to feel like I'm contributing and it's like, what if that dies? You know, what if that me dies and what's on the other side of that? The unknown, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what I'm saying is
wow.
this is like that's the fun. Therein is the fun. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is completely not known." And he by like hook or by crook, unknowingly is leading me into that.
Mhm.
With his apparent insistence on not playing or whatever I want to say about it. It's just like, wow. He's just, huh.
That's a trip. I can totally feel it in my gut. I mean, wow. That's amazing. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
We'll see.
Powerful.
I didn't mean to talk so much. That just flew right out of me, huh? Mm.
It was good.
It's just happening. You're not talking. It's just happening.
Right.
Mm.
How about you,
It just
Catherine?
makes me see like every word I say, this insistence. I claim the insistence is there. It's really here. It's really here. You know, this is what I mean. This kid is like,
Thank you.
so thanks y'all
Yeah. So
for being here.
he's your opportunity at the moment.
Say it again, Vince.
Your son is your opportunity at the moment.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love that, Kristen.
It's crazy.
Well, I reckon here's an opportunity for Alan to take you deeper into where you're going right now.
Yeah.
If
I
you're
like
up
Kristen.
for it. Yeah.
Are you feeling like doing that, Kristen, or will we? You want
Which ones? Sorry.
just to feel deeper into this?
Sure.
So, what's happening?
Well, so sadness just moved through. I can't even tell what it's giving way
Okay.
to, or what exactly I'm sad about. You know, it's
Mhm.
it doesn't. I
You-
can't say.
We know that sadness is like a headline, isn't it? Something underneath. What's the sensation there?
The sensation is yeah. Okay, the sensation. I'm gonna sit down and draw. Um, the sensation. Yeah. So I'm going to sensation, and I can't make anything out of it. The
Okay.
sensation. So then, even to describe it, what is the sensation? I was asking that. What was
Just
the
drop it.
question?
Just what is the sensation in the body? Don't even ask the question. Just feel.
Yeah.
Just feel into it. What's going on? What is felt?
Energy, maybe.
Well, that's what sort of energy? How would you describe the energy? You're talking about an aliveness or a
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Describing. It's changing.
It's
I was
changing.
gonna say, yeah. It feels, I was going to say, yeah, energy, but maybe it's, and then as soon as I was about to say that, it changed. Or it was actually seeming like it was changing before I even was going to say that. So aliveness.
Is there anything underneath that and perhaps I'm doing what you were suggesting earlier, I'm trying to change something here, but it's really just feeling into what it is. And if there's nothing there specifically, so be it, but just this willingness to drop in again.
Yeah. To feel in to what is. And we're checking to see if there's something underneath this energy that is changing.
Yeah.
Is that the direction?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're talking about the subtleness that you're experiencing when you're interacting with your son. And there's a subtleness here, perhaps, that we haven't just touched, perhaps. Not saying that there is, but there's layers and layers of this. And as we drop in, the subtleness becomes even more, I don't know what's the word. Yeah, just being able to notice the subtleties is a gift. So is there any sensation that you haven't perhaps noticed before?
And with my son up in my imagination, or just
No, just now. Just now.
Okay.
Notice any story that might be running as well. If there is, just leave it be. As we know, they'll just keep coming.
Okay, what I notice, generally, like overall, like a softening and deepening into, just to use words, but then to describe, but as I just am just staying
Mm-hmm.
exactly with sensation,
Mm-hmm.
it's, I would need to leave kind of, let me just see. I can't say anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
This would be, well, and plus it's changing. I guess I could say that.
Mm-hmm.
And what, I can't describe this. Like I can't say what it is. I mean, I could, what is it? What does it mean?
Yeah. Don't worry about the meaning. Just if it's there just for instant, just tell us what's there for the instant.
For this instant?
Yeah.
Start with
My God.
locating a position as a
A
beginning.
position?
Yeah, where in the body?
Is this sensation?
Hmm.
I guess there's a vague sensation around the solar plexus.
Mm-hmm. Just drop
If I
in.
could call it that, that might be an overstatement, but I could go with that.
Okay, go with that for now. Go with that for now.
Okay. Okay.
And what is that? How would you describe that as best you can? What's one word that
I would
pops
be,
up?
yeah, well, I would be very tempted, and so I'm just going to put it out there, to call this that vague sensation now that now it's like kicking up again a little bit more as I say it. It was vague. Now it's a little less vague. And I'd be very tempted to call that anxiety.
Okay.
I would.
And
Yeah.
so just stay with that. Just stay with that. So here anxiety is another label, really, isn't it? Just feel into that. Is there anything that that pops into your mind that describes what this is in the rawest sense? Is there a contraction there? Is there a rawness? Is there a sharpness? Does it feel dark or?
Yeah, how to describe it in the rawest. God, this is so tricky because the closer, I really allow it so fully or something like this to meet this requirement of like, okay, like really, what can I say about this? How could I just tell you? How could I tell you? And then the more it's like a listening, and the more I listen to get that information, to see if there's something that I could describe, the more it eludes me. Like it just is spreading out. Perhaps now it's like, oh, I know I said it was the solar plexus, but now I'm not so sure anymore. It's like that. It's like,
so
not like it's playing hide and seek. It's just
this elusiveness is interesting. That it's like a feather in the breeze, isn't it? Any attempt to breeze sort of pushes it away. Just in the stillness, just let it absolutely settle.
Yeah.
Just let your attention settle there without any attempt to move.
It's funny. I just got this thought you're not allowed to do this. Don't, you're bypassing. I got there. You are bypassing that. You're bypassing.
Okay, we're in the story again, so just see how quickly we can just push it away. But now just drop in again, drop in. Absolutely soften your gaze, so to speak, as soft as can be.
Yeah, it's sort of like dancing with a fragrance that isn't even,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Okay.
it's like invisible,
Mm-hmm.
suggestive, but not really. It's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Okay, just stay with it.
there isn't really an it. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't find, stay, yeah, stay with it. And then there isn't really an it to stay with.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay,
there's
well,
just the stay.
mm-hmm. So this is a beautiful opportunity, as Jenny talked about the access point. There's a subtlety here, perhaps there is an attempt to, well, not an attempt, but there is a bypassing. However, you know, when your son, the situation is created again, just try and feel into this in the moment, into this subtlety. See if that same reaction is apparent. But this is the opportunity just to feel into it again and again. You know what we mean here. You know what we're pointing to?
I think I was just trying to find what I was bypassing. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking in. You said there, let me just see if I heard you correctly. You said this is what's, and then you said so-and-so is pointing to that there is a bypassing here.
Well, it's
Is that what you said?
it could be bypassing, but the real point here is to feel into this subtle energy whenever there's this interaction with your son. That seems to be the part of the story, but just feeling in, as we've been doing here, to this subtle energy, this subtle sensation, and just let it reveal itself. That's all that's to be done here. So that was the question about whether you understand it. So someone else might be able to come in and just someone else may have felt something here that can help.
Yeah, let me add to it too, because Kristen, I feel that you are doing that to a certain extent, because I was really feeling it with you. And when I felt it in my stomach and I was with you in that, I'm like, and moving into the unknown, and then the me dies. And I feel like you are in the process of that already happening. So I think not to add mentalness on top of it, like something you're bypassing that story, but maybe, take what Alan's just saying and just continue what you're doing, being aware of all the layers of you not knowing crap and the me struggling to let go of what mother looks like, mother-son looks like, relationship looks like, all those stories that makes the me feel like your son won't play with you. But then I was sensing that you are getting on the other side of that because you're feeling the full spectrum of it. you're not just stopping an I don't know shit and then shutting yourself down, but also going into that access point of when you feel shut down, and feel that fully. Feel the shutdown, feel the me dying, feel the me grasping to be needed and heard. And also make sure you get that layer just as well as not knowing shit.
Well, that, I don't know. I'm not sure if I would call it. So not knowing shit is total freedom.
Yes, I get that.
Yeah.
And there's two sides. There's the beauty and the joy of not knowing shit. And then underneath that is the me who wants to know shit, that feels she's being shut down, that those subtleties, you don't want to not feel them as well. They're just as important as the joy of not knowing shit.
Okay. So, and I can't, the thing, I guess, what is a little unclear here and what we just did is that subtleties are felt, but I don't, I'm not aware. I wouldn't be able to say to you, oh yes, this is the layer that there's like nothing, I can't say anything about it.
No,
like
yeah, it's not a layer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a layer. No, I can feel like I can feel when your son, when you're trying to connect in your meanness, and your son says you don't know shit, and you're going, you're right, I don't, that's glorious. And then underneath that, you might feel,
well, I didn't say that.
Well, not that you're saying that, but you might feel that.
No,
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't say that in the moment. That's what I mean, is that I only had that 2 days later, when just now when I was driving was the, you know, and then I started laughing about it. At the time, it was more like, well, gee, this isn't so much fun. Yeah.
That's the subtleties. That's an access point as well as the freedom of not knowing anything. Every time you try to connect to anyone, your son, your daughter, your mother, anything, you're seeing it already. I get that you're already seeing it. And that access point of the pain that comes before the insight, you're right, I don't know anything. And then these beautiful, you said, and then fun comes, spontaneous fun that's not controlled. So I totally get that you are processing this. And I don't sense that you're bypassing at all.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm feeling the full spectrum.
So the funny thing here, Kristen, may be, you know, we can get all set for the next interaction. You can get all set for the next interaction with your son, and it's totally different because something has been felt here already that can't be described. But it's a beautiful example of just no matter what the subtlety, all of us, no matter where we are, this is the opportunity just to feel into the subtleness. So whatever wants to reveal itself can reveal itself.
What comes up for me here, Kristen, is that what as parents we would like to teach our kids, and one of the things that I value is authenticity. And so next time you have that let's all replay that interaction with your son, instead of responding cerebrally, if you were to go into your body and look at how your body reacted to what he said and share that with him. Now, that's a bit tricky because that might make him feel uncomfortable and it might lead to a whole lot of other things. So you don't even really have to share it with him, but you share it with yourself. So if you come to the realization that this is what you're feeling as a result.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say.
I wonder if that's, so taking a stab at it here, what I noticed at the time is I can't say anything here.
How does that make you feel? What's the feeling that comes from that? See, that's a mental thing again. I can't say anything.
Well, I was in the body, doing what you said, and there was no place other than to be. I mean, I could have been thinking all over the place or something, but I wasn't. So much when he was doing all this talking. Yeah, I was just like moment to moment I mean, it's like a practice opportunity. Like every moment's a practice opportunity. Like, huh. And I'm replaying it here so I can milk it, you know, like see what's there. And so I can see what's there. And then and replaying it, I can't say anything here. There's nothing to say here. There's nothing that could be said here. And how is that in the body? How do I know to say that? Like, what's telling me that?
Is that a
Is it like
question?
there's nothing to say here as an insight, or there's nothing to say here as in a shutdown?
I have no idea what I could possibly say that he would receive.
Is that
So
feel
that-
like a shutdown? Feel it in your body though. Does that feel like a shutdown or like an insight? Feel it in your body. Is it expansive like an insight? Oh, there's nothing I could say here. Or is it a shutdown? Oh, there's nothing I could say here.
Gosh, it's just there's nothing I could say here. I guess it's not a shutdown. I was kind of
Yeah.
assuming it was.
Feel it in your body. Does it feel contracted and tight? There's nothing shut down. There's nothing I can say. Or is there just the insight? Oh, there's nothing I could say. Does it feel like wisdom or does it feel like stifled in the body?
I don't know that I would call it wisdom, but it doesn't feel like shutdown. Wisdom?
Like
And that's
insight.
it.
Insight.
Yeah, that's
Maybe freedom.
Yeah, wisdom's another ego-provoking word too.
Yeah, so I would say that
Yeah.
insight, freedom. Yeah. Does it feel like freedom that you don't have anything to say? Or does it feel like the words you were using shut down? How does it feel in your body?
And if I could just jump in here, what Jenny was saying about this contraction or expansion, that is so subtle sometimes.
Right.
And perhaps we're trying to find an accentuation that's not there, but just that tendency to shut down or that tendency to contract or that openness where there doesn't seem to be there's nothing but a freedom of flow. So it's that noticing that slightest closing up or tensing or slight tension coming into the body. However we describe that contraction.
Yeah. Actually, so as you say it like that, I was like, oh, this is just still this sort of like as if listening to, it's like, I don't know why I say this. It's like listening to a fragrance. That makes no sense at all. But it's like listening to a fragrance and he's talking and there's just movement. There's movement. There's, for lack of a better word, but just like when you were having me go in, and I was like, oh, I think it's solar plexus, and then I'm listening, like, geez, maybe this isn't solar plexus. I don't even know. Like this, that's what it's like. That's what it's like. So it's almost as if, oh, maybe there is a contraction here. Maybe I could call that sensation. Is it? Let me check. And I'm like this, and I'm listening as if like opening to hear what can I say about this? It's like that. It's
Right.
like that's the description. And yeah, it just did seem like, so there could be something subtle here that I'm not, and then there did appear to be something subtle, right? I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I would call this solar plexus. And then we listened some more, and then suddenly, not suddenly, but then I began to notice, like, wait a minute, I've lost track. Is this sensation in the solar plexus? And what does this even mean? Like, does this mean I'm shut down to my son? I have no idea. What are we tracking here?
So
Like, is it
you
the
said-
story or emotion?
you see how we can get into the story of this rather than just feeling, and there may be just a continual movement. You know, the change can happen, and that's fine. The issue is to just continually allow our attention to gently attend to it, and see, and it'll make itself known if there is something.
Yeah, I think we're just set up for the next interaction.
Yeah, that's right.
You've got some tools, and it's going to be interesting what you discover.
Yes, yes, yes. That sounds right. Yeah.
This
We'll
is so
see.
good. This is so good, Kristen, because it's really helping us all feel into these subtleties that can so easily be missed.
Yeah.
So we look forward to the next report.
I'll let you know.
It sounds to me like it feels to me in my body, because I can feel a lot of times it feels to me like you're just really flowing with what's happening in the moment beautifully. And it just keeps morphing. You just keep morphing. And when you feel contraction, it feels, because I could feel in my stomach, and then it moved when I was with you. So it feels with me when I'm linked with you that you're moving through it beautifully.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to run out of internet in not too far in the future. So, but I want to hear from Kathleen and Julia before we go. How's things been for you, Kathleen? Are you the Kathleen that just went through the gate at LU? Was that a day or two? Wasn't you? You're muted. I don't know how to unmute. It's good. All right. Okay. And how about you, Julia? How are you traveling?
I'm tired. Yesterday it was very good when Don talked.
Yeah.
When Don was talking, I felt really relaxed afterwards. Don't know why.
He doesn't
It
know
was a
why
little
either.
bit like he was talking for me, or I don't know. It was good. Yeah, today I don't have much to say.
Okay.
I try to focus, and it's hard work.
Yeah. Is it late for you there? Late in the day for you there?
The daytime, you mean?
Now, what time is it for you?
It's 10:30 p.m.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So Don would have no idea that he was saying stuff yesterday that was valuable for you.
I guess.
It happens. Yeah. Yeah. These groups are great for what I call hive wisdom. It's that we get so many different perspectives that just all adds up to something wonderful. That's great. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to shut it down now. Thank you all for coming. It's been great as usual. It's just every time it's so good. I love it. Yeah.
Just before we go, Vince, I had some feedback about your website.
Okay.
Someone, I think they might have emailed you, but I just they just loved it because it's so rich in content.
Okay, good. Yeah. So David, are you Daj?
I'm sorry?
Are you Daj?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah. So David's given me some feedback about the website too. That's good. Thank you. That's excellent. Good stuff. Yeah, I really need to get back
find the
and do some
website?
work. It's oneness, the number one, ness.info.
Number one?
Yeah. Oneness.info. Yes. So I'm kind of attempting to do a little bit of what we do here there, but there's going to be people out there in the world that are do-it-yourself enthusiasts and they don't want to talk to anybody, but so I thought maybe that will help them. So anyway, I'm trying to put it down there, but it's a bit of a slog, but we're getting there. Yeah. Good one. All right. Well, hopefully I'll see you all again.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Vince.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Wow.